Hey everyone, Connor Newcomb here, host of Locked On Orioles. And you may have heard the Baltimore Orioles, for the first time in 7 years, are headed back to the postseason. And not only that, but the Orioles won the AL East, winning over 100 games in a season for the first time since 1980. And I'm here to answer some questions about the Orioles before they get a little week off here before game one of the ALDS on Saturday. And the first thing to talk about is the expectations for this team, because in the preseason, they were certainly expected to have a good year. The Orioles turned things around and went 83-79 in 2022. After losing 110 games in 2021, they had a lot of young talent. They finished only 3 games out of the postseason last year. So you thought, hey, this team should contend. Now, they didn't add a lot to the roster in the offseason, barely making moves in free agency. So the preseason expectations were try and take another step forward from 83-79 and at least be in the playoff race. Well, the Orioles did much more than that by winning the toughest division in baseball. Now the expectations pre-playoffs, they're different, but I don't feel like there's a lot of pressure. This seems like the very beginning of a window opening for the Orioles. So I don't think it's all the pressure in the world where, they have to get to the World Series and try to win it. They did finish with the second best record in baseball. I would say expectations are to win a playoff series, win the ALDS, get yourself to the ALCS, be one of the final 4 teams standing, and show that you can have success in the postseason as well. That will kind of give you that experience moving forward throughout this contention window. Now, the Orioles have certainly been playing good baseball all year, and they've played good baseball in September as well. And really, it's been Adley Rutschman, the team's young all-star catcher that has put the team on his back. He's been the Orioles' best hitter in September. In the month, with a .409 on-base percentage, had 4 homers and a 156 WRC plus in the month of September. He was fantastic. Gunnar Henderson was great too, the other young phenom who's going to win AL Rookie of the Year. 6 homers and a 129 WRC plus in the month of September to finish off the season. And then 2 kind of unsung heroes who have also been swinging the bat well leading into the playoffs. Aaron Hicks, who was basically booed out of New York, was signed by the Orioles and has been great for Baltimore and hit 303 with a 140 WRC plus in September. Pound for pound, he's been the Orioles' best hitter since he joined the team at the end of May. And then also a guy who doesn't play every day, but has been a big help off the bench is Ramon Arias. Yes, he's not getting consistent plate appearances, but he did hit 327 in the month of September, provides gold glove defense, and is a big part of this Orioles team. Now, moving over to the rotation side, just a couple of weeks ago, the Orioles had a lot of rotation questions. They had some guys struggling. They didn't have John Means back. Jack Flaherty, their one trade line acquisition, was pitching poorly. And even though Flaherty is currently in the bullpen for the Orioles, I think they're back again to having a solid rotation heading into the playoffs. Really, you need 4 starting pitchers to get through a postseason. And I think the Orioles have 5 good candidates right now for those 4 spots. And that was much better than they could have had just a couple of weeks ago. It feels like the locks right now are Grayson Rodriguez and Kyle Bradish. They have been, along with Garrett Cole, those 3 guys have been by ERA, the best 3 American League starting pitchers since the All-Star break. Those guys are starting most likely games 1 and 2. Then John Means returned in early September from his Tommy John surgery, and he's been amazing. Means a couple of starts ago took a no-hitter into the 7th inning against Cleveland. He's been great since he returned. I think Means is getting a postseason start. And then it's basically down to Dean Kramer or Kyle Gibson for that last start. Kramer had been great most of the year, then really struggled in September, but had a nice scoreless start on the night the Orioles clinched the AL East against the Red Sox, so he's in the mix. And then Kyle Gibson is the veteran innings eater. He's been up and down all year, but he always seems to give you a quality start, and Gibson has been great in September. One of those guys will probably move to the bullpen, and the other one's in the rotation. And hey, if there's injuries, if guys are ineffective, you still might have Jack Flaherty and Cole Irvin on the roster in the bullpen, guys who have started a lot in the past and guys you could go to if you needed a spot starter in the playoffs. Now, in terms of the bullpen, it has certainly taken a hit for the Orioles, as it was announced over the weekend that Felix Bautista, the Orioles all-star closer, and quite frankly, the best reliever in baseball this season, is officially going to undergo Tommy John surgery in early October. Now, Felix left a game on August 25th with elbow soreness after throwing a pitch against the Colorado Rockies. It was later revealed that he had a partial tear of his UCL in his right throwing elbow, But the Orioles weren't ready to say that he's going to get Tommy John immediately, and they did not shut him down for the year. Instead, he continued to throw. He was throwing bullpens. He threw a simulated game last Tuesday, and then that was it. Just wasn't bouncing back in enough time to get back for the postseason. And so the Orioles announced he is done for the year, done for 2024 as well, and will get Tommy John surgery. Now, it had been kind of an issue after they lost Felix Bautista, and the bullpen was struggling for a bit, but they've gotten some more rest lately over the past week or two of the season and are starting to round into form even without their all-star closer. One of the reasons is they've got another all-star in the bullpen, and that is Yennier Cano, who burst onto the scene this year, has had about a 1 ERA for most of the season, went through a little bit of a rough patch, but has gotten it back together over the past week or so. He's a high-volume ground ball guy who should be the Orioles closer, but they've got other guys who can pitch in high leverage. Cionel Perez has given up 1 run in his last 25 appearances. Danny Coulomb, they basically got off the scrap heap as a veteran lefty, has been incredible. And Tyler Wells, who was the Orioles' best starting pitcher in the first half of the year, was experienced fatigue after the All-Star break, went back down to the minors, finally was recalled in mid-September to work out of the bullpen, and has not allowed a base runner out of the pen since then, and was the guy who came in and got the save to clinch the AL East for the Orioles against the Red Sox on Thursday night. So they got a lot of options there. Plus, you could have guys like Dean Kramer and Jack Flaherty move from the rotation into the bullpen, and a couple of wild cards like Jacob Webb, who has pitched in the World Series before, and Shintaro Fujinami, who never knows where the ball is going, but might have the best stuff in that bullpen. And if he locks it in, could be almost as unhittable as Felix Bautista. So there's question marks in the pen, but they've got the talent out there to get things done in a postseason run. Now, last year, the bullpen was probably the Orioles' biggest strength. But this year, and especially without Felix Bautista, I don't think that's the case. I think the biggest strength for this team is the depth of the lineup. Now, the Orioles are going to have Gunnar Henderson win the AL Rookie of the Year, and he's probably going to get some MVP votes. They did have Adley Rutschman and Austin Hayes also as all-stars this year, and they've had guys really break out, like Ryan O'Hearn's been amazing, and Aaron Hicks has been great since coming over to Baltimore. But the depth of the lineup is what is great. There are really no easy outs when the Orioles are sending their best 9 out there. The Orioles have 11 players who are going to be on their playoff roster who have a WRC plus of 99 or better. Remember, WRC plus league average is 100. So essentially that means they have 11 players who are league average or better as a hitter. And if you add in Adam Frazier, who's been a solid veteran, has a 94 WRC plus, you basically got 12 guys who aren't bad, who are hitters on your team, and you can mix and match. That is huge for the Orioles because 7, 8, 9 in their order are not easy outs. There are no easy outs for opposing pitchers against the Orioles, and that is huge when things get tight in the postseason. Now, on the flip side, maybe the biggest weakness and the thing I'm worried about might just be the Orioles' inexperience. Now, most of this year, it hasn't affected them. Again, they won over 100 games. Didn't really matter that they had never been there, done that. They just went from 110 losses 2 years ago to winning the division this year. But not a lot of guys on this roster have playoff experience. Actually, there's only 6 of them who have ever even appeared in the postseason. 3 of the hitters, James McCann, Aaron Hicks, and Adam Frazier. James McCann is the backup catcher. He might rarely play in the postseason. Aaron Hicks will play some, but he's certainly not an everyday player. And it's the same with Adam Frazier as well. And while Aaron Hicks has 114 playoff plate appearances, McCann has 7 and Frazier has 24, all of them coming last year. Not exactly a lot of experience. The main hitters all have never played in the postseason. And then on the pitching side, again, only 3 guys who have played in the playoffs. Jacob Webb, 4 2/3 innings in the postseason in his career. Kyle Gibson, 3 1/3 innings in the postseason in his career. That was as the mop-up man for the Phillies in their run to the World Series last year. And then Jack Flaherty, who was good in the postseason for the Cardinals back in 2019. But we are now looking at a very, very different Jack Flaherty. The 3 of those guys combined for 31 innings. There's a chance that the 3 of those guys, none of them really play a big role for the Orioles pitching staff in the postseason, which means it's going to be a lot of inexperienced playoff pitchers going out there trying to get outs for the O's. But I still think this Orioles team can make a deep run. I don't think they're going to win the World Series because the Braves and the Dodgers are incredible and the Astros have been there before. But my prediction on the O's, I think they can represent the American League in the World Series and win the pennant here in 2023.